The Your Mark on the World show is made possible by our sponsors, including Clean Energy Advisors.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Kathryn Pisco. She's the CEO and founder of Unearth the World, a company that specializes in doing volunteerism right. Kathryn, welcome to the show. Welcome back.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
We're excited to have you back after a couple of years. So give us the lowdown. First, for those who didn't see the first interview, remind us.
Sure.
What Unearth the World is doing.
No, that'd be great. Thanks again for having me on to give an update. Unearth the World is a responsible volunteer travel organization. We plan personalized and meaningful volunteer travel opportunities for individuals, students, professionals, companies, and universities. And we were founded by myself and my husband a few years ago after our own kind of transformative but eye-opening international volunteer experience where we saw so many of the amazing transformative and just beautiful outcomes that can occur when you connect with communities around the world in a meaningful way. But we also saw that voluntourism can sometimes not be done well, where the community is not put first, or there's not much pre-trip training, or it's super, super expensive and not transparent. So when we got back from our trip, we decided to start an organization that took a more responsible approach to volunteering abroad, and have been doing that ever since. Been around for about 2.5 years now.
That's great.
Thanks.
So give us a sense of your progress, your scale, the number of people you're helping.
Sure. So we work with 6 different international nonprofits, grassroots organizations that are solving problems in their own community, and kind of act as a liaison between them and international volunteers. So these students, professionals, families, we pair the volunteers' skill sets and interests with the needs of our international partners. Over the last few years, we've worked with over 200 travelers. We started off just working with individuals. I think, our first couple months we had 4 travelers, and 3 of them were my husband's sister and her friends. But over time, we've started to continue to work with individuals, but now we're also working with groups. So we'll form a relationship with a study abroad or service learning office at a university and work to plan classes and or meaningful experiences for student groups, and have also started to work with companies that are very philanthropically minded and can pair their goals and really wanting to continue to promote global leaders. But it's been great because there's such a wealth of skills and resources that can be found in the corporate space. And so if we can strategically pair these skills with the needs of our partners, we've really seen some awesome impact happen. So worked with about 200 people, and it's been great because of our post-trip program where we really work closely with individuals to bridge their international experience to daily life. We've seen our Unearth the World alums start their own nonprofits, change their career, or just become more civically engaged in their, or volunteer in their own communities. So it's been pretty rewarding, but we're hoping to continue to grow.
Great. Now, I think part of what motivated you to create Unearth the World was a desire to fix some of the problems you see in the voluntourism industry. Correct. What are those problems, and what are you doing to fix them? And how has your thinking about those problems evolved since you started the company?
Great question. So I think we saw many challenges with the voluntourism space in my husband and I, in our own personal experience. And the 3 we kind of honed in on were, first, just a lack of financial transparency and affordability. We saw third-party organizations like an Unearth the World, but that were charging travelers thousands and thousands of dollars to volunteer abroad. And even if that were the case, or it was even a little bit of less expensive, there was no transparency or accountability for where that money was going. So what we've done is we itemize where every single dollar goes on our website. The majority of any money or fees that our volunteers pay go directly towards our nonprofit partners. And you're not paying to volunteer. You're paying for a fair cost for the room and board and in-country transportation, and a small fee to Unearth the World for all of the pre-trip training, post-trip coaching, and logistical travel support. So we just are very transparent and keep costs really low. The second issue we saw was a problem with preparation on behalf for the travelers before they arrive on site. Many times we saw young people or professionals just arriving to volunteer abroad with no real understanding of what they'll be doing, understanding of the history or culture before they arrived, or really even understanding where they fit in as an international volunteer. So we created a pre-trip training program that is all about global awareness. We focus on reflection, culture shock, power and privilege issues, and do a deep dive into the location and nonprofit that our travelers will be going to, so that they can really go in eyes wide open and be sensitive to the needs and really know the role that they're going to be playing. We also do post-trip support, which is something that's really unique in the space. I think because there's probably no money in it, but it's something that's really important to us to really help bridge these travelers' international experiences to their daily life. Even if someone goes abroad for a short time, a week or a few weeks, we think that the impact should be longer term. So we work really closely with everyone when they return home. And then the third issue that we've seen that I think is probably the most alarming and most people would understand and really relate to is that we saw many times these international volunteer projects that were set up more for us as the traveler as opposed to the community partner abroad. You know, they were kind of set up, we could kind of go in, feel really good about ourselves, change our Facebook profile, come home, talk about it at cocktail parties, but what kind of impact was really being made on the ground? And so we've addressed that through our community first partnership model, where we find and work with international NGOs that are already solving problems in their own community. We have a really long, probably a year-long process of actually forming a partnership with them abroad. And they are dictating, not us, what work is being done on the ground, what they are looking for in volunteers, what fees look like, all of those. We're simply their microphone and a way of kind of connecting them and sharing their mission with travelers here in the United States and around
What's
the world.
an example of one of the NGOs you work with, the work that the volunteers do, and the impact that they're having?
Great question. So our newest partner, I guess I can highlight, is a nonprofit based in Guatemala, just outside of the beautiful historical colonial town of Antigua. And they work with all about developing local communities and that specific within the coffee trade. So they work with local coffee cooperatives and farmers to help promote the work that they're doing, but also fight for fair wages. So now if you purchased a 1 pound bag of coffee, let's say it's $10, literally 5 cents of that actually ends up into the pocket of some of these local farmers. Part of that process is because a big portion of the money goes towards the roasters along the process. So this nonprofit has worked to train the local farmers on how to roast, or formed relationships with roasters here in the States that will contribute a big portion of that feedback to the farmers. So when you arrive on site, you not only do activities all around the global coffee trade to really learn about the coffee making process, but you are out with the farmers every day, picking the coffee berries, learning how to depulp them, dry them, grind and roast the coffee, bag them every step of the way. And you're able to see, you're also living with a local farmer's family and hear from them firsthand the impact that working with this nonprofit has had. It has allowed them to afford a better quality of life, send their kids to college, and know that they're in business for themselves and not have to worry about being employed by one of the larger organizations. It's really eye-opening, and I think a really amazing opportunity for us as a volunteer because most of us drink coffee. In fact, I mean, I recently had twin daughters, and I would say I guzzle coffee, and I never thought of where the coffee was coming from. And you hear fair trade a lot or direct trade models, but I never really understood how that played a role in coffee. And so going and learning, but actually participating in the process is it's unbelievable and amazing to form these relationships with these community members and see how it's really benefited them.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Kathryn, you are a remarkable human being that so many people admire. Who do you look up to? Who inspires you?
Oh, that's a great, I mean, so many people, and I would say it can range from, of course, my own family. My mother has volunteered and been of service to others her entire life, and I think kind of inspired me from day one to pursue something that sounded really crazy at the time, like leaving my cushy-ish corporate job and traveling the world and starting my own business from it. So I think a personal hero like that is extremely important. But I also look at other, female entrepreneurs or even intrapreneurs like Sheryl Sandberg that is making huge leaps within her own organization, even if it's not starting something from scratch. And I think no one person has kind of driven me to necessarily the spot where I am now, but I think it's and it's not just women, of course, but I really draw inspiration when I can see, it's not an easy road to be an entrepreneur, yet alone a social entrepreneur. So someone that is kind of fearless, follows their own heart, but also forms an organization to do so and make a difference. Really, I draw inspiration from every day.
Now, Kathryn, you have tackled something that is pretty big with Unearth the World. A lot of people see problems. A lot of people see the problems you've seen, but don't set out to be the solution to those problems. Why did you feel compelled to create Unearth the World and address the problems in voluntourism?
I'm surprised sometimes. I even surprise myself when I'm talking about it because it almost doesn't feel like it was me. I never would have thought I would have the kind of confidence to start my own organization. I think a lot of that I drew from, a lot of my upbringing, but I think from actually taking, I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier, when my husband and I did our own international volunteering, it was after leaving our, corporate careers for a year to travel. And I learned so much about myself by being pushed outside of my comfort zone and traveling in that way. I felt more confident, a better communicator, a better leader, and I was so inspired both on the positive and the negative aspects that when I came back, I thought, I'm changed forever, and I was a 30-year-old woman that at the time that thought, my values were pretty set and I was going to come back home and have another role at a company I respected and move forward. But I realized that life through that travel process and through meeting people from different cultures around the world and really learning from that and that process, that life was too short to kind of just fit back into what I was doing before. And that if I came home changed, that if I didn't do something about it, I thought I would regret it. And it kind of started off as, okay, let's see if this can gain any traction. Maybe it'll just be a passion project, but has eventually, it's shown me that other people are thinking about meaningful issues around the world as well. And other people really want to connect with different cultures. Now more than ever, I think it's important to do so. So I think it was just that travel process really taught me a lot about myself and what my priorities were. And now I think being a new mom, I want to help contribute to bettering the world that my daughters are going to grow up in. And it continues to push me each day.
Great. Kathryn, what is your superpower?
Oh my gosh. I wish I had a superpower, like I didn't need sleep, because this past year I've gotten very little. I think my superpower is creating relationships. It's something everyone does, But I pride myself, I think my previous career in sales helped me kind of develop that. But I am someone that seeks out deep personal relationships with people. And I think it's helped me to, found Unearth the World, but also helped me to enter an industry or a space, the tourism sector or responsible tourism that I had never worked within, and hopefully, make some headway. And I joked I should have written a blog when I first started about my 1,000 first coffee dates with people, but I would reach out and seek out people that had experience that could offer some advice, and I just listened. And I found that by listening to their struggles, challenges, but also successes and advice, I was able to not only form really deep relationships, but also hopefully avoid some of the challenges and form the organization that I wanted to form. So might not sound like a superpower, but I think it's important, and I encourage all of our travelers too. Part of our training is about listening and reflecting and forming those relationships abroad as well. So I hope that my skill or interest in that can brush off on others as well.
Fantastic. Well, Kathryn, we thank you very much for being with us today. Before you go, tell us how people can learn more about Unearth the World and connect with you personally.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. Unearth the World, our website is www.unearththeworld.com. You can find us on Facebook and as well as Twitter at Unearth the World and Instagram at Unearth the World. Feel free to also reach out over email at info@unearththeworld.com. I'm monitoring that and would love to connect with anyone interested in responsible travel, social enterprise, even if planning something through Unearth the World is not on your radar. As I mentioned before, I love connecting with people, and my mission is larger than just Unearth the World too, and really to get other people connecting with the world in a meaningful way. So
Great.
Really appreciate it.
Well, Kathryn, thank you very much for being with us today. We wish you every success in shrinking the world and creating more impact.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devin. I appreciate it.
All right. Let's do some good. Clean Energy Advisors creates investment opportunities in the renewable energy sector that provide clients with predictable income, preservation of capital, and positive impact. Clean Energy Advisors is committed to providing clients with investment opportunities with both market rates of return and measurable impact.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was recorded via Google Hangouts on Air and is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com. Learn more about Devin's work at yourmarkontheworld.com.